Correct.
And we're going to just talk a little further about the connection between trauma and dis-ease and, you know, abusive behavior. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Charles Sophy. Come on out.
Hello.
Hi, thank you. You want to sit down over here? And we'll get in, we'll jump into
Should
this.
I be in the middle?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I thought that might be nice.
Ooh.
So we'll jump into this right away. And, you know, we had a nice conversation on the phone about all of this.
Yeah.
And I think that you said some very interesting things to me, because we don't really realize when we experience something traumatic, whether it be incest as a child or rape as an adult, what happens to us and the process of that. And I clearly see, you know, my own disease with cancer connected to the fact that I didn't understand how to handle my trauma. Right. And I'm sure that your emotional problems and substance abuse problems, now you can connect to your early child. So could you speak to that a little more?
I think it's very important to make that connection, because if you have underlying trauma that's already pre-existing before you have this disease, then you have a double whammy. But just the simple fact of hearing the word cancer sends your brain into a freeze, basically, and a chemical shift happens, and you get flooded. You're flooded with denial and panic and fear, and then that could be on top of what you already have experienced in your life. None of that being dealt with because you're rushing to get an MRI is going to compound your healing, and it's going to stop it. You're not going to get to where you could get if you clear that up right away.
You know, you said something interesting that I've actually repeated. I thought it was so smart. You said that, you know, we go into this place where we mourn the healthy us.
Right.
The way we pictured ourselves, who we imagine ourselves to be, once, you know, that kind of illusion is broken and you're told, you have cancer, you go into this place where you get, you know, part of what you're feeling is you're mourning the death of who you thought you were.
Right, and the sad part about all that is you're doing it in the dark. You're doing it alone, internally. If you could attach to someone and get to a mental health professional and release a lot of that, the chemical shifts that go back, and the health of your immune system is unbelievable.
Well, I think processing trauma and getting to the point where you can actually, from a place of calm and self-regulation, look at things, really, it floods the brain with all these beautiful, wonderful chemicals that allow you to feel calm and at peace and deal with things in a, you know, a linear fashion, as opposed to, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And that just compounds the disease factor, you know, because there's no peace, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know, you're now on a path where you're learning how to modulate and combine a balance of mind, body, and spirit. Can you speak a little to that point now? And this is different from what you used to do in the past, obviously.
It's very different from what I used to do in the past. I mean, as I was driving over here today, there was a lot of traffic, and like I said, I'm a person that has some anxiety, and I was catastrophizing, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to make it, and what's wrong with my GPS, and why am I in Westwood? I just came from West Hollywood, and oh my goodness, the whole spinning started, and then I just had to breathe and take a moment and say, Mac, all is well. You know, you have 50 minutes to go 7 miles. I think it's going to be okay. You know, whereas that catastrophizing, that before I had this information and this peace and this serenity and this purpose, would have its own life. I mean, it would just take over, and I would just be in this, I would crash through the day. There was no moment where I could actually enjoy the moment that I had in front of me, you know? And so I started doing some breathing and some self-regulating, soothing techniques in the car, and, you know, the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, I'm almost there. This is pretty awesome.
And I'm early.
Right.
And I'm early.
That's marvelous. As you know, when we have the tools, and we're constantly talking ourselves off a ledge, right? We're constantly being that other voice, what I talked about earlier of being the mindfulness behind the feeling. you know, thinking, well, wait, where is this coming from? And am I really, you know, on the right path, or do I need to talk myself off of the ledge?
I mean, I always tell patients that it's simple. All you really have to do is have a combination of your head and your heart. They should come down the thoughts from your brain, out your mouth, and the feelings from your heart, combined as a response to anything. So everything should have a thought and a feeling. And if you do all that and you regularly unload, you will really be saving yourself a whole lot. And
but we have to remember that it's a process.
Absolutely.
That we take the person who has a substance use disorder or a mental health, mental health diagnosis, and that's something we kind of have to gentle them through.
Right.
You know, on a gradient over time, so that it becomes second nature. You know, and I think that's so beautiful the way you put it, is that if these two meet in the middle.
Yeah, everything should have a thought.
Don't cut your head off from the heart.
Exactly.
Isn't that what you're saying?
Right, because that's
like
what
that.
happens in that panic. You become, oh my God, and then you just start going and you don't deal with the feelings that are really driving the bottom line.
I love it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So can you speak more about, you know, how any trauma, the trauma of finding out that you have a serious disease, when you realize that something terrible happened to you in childhood, and that's why, like for you, Mackenzie, you were sober for 10 years, and it wasn't until your father died that you fell off the wagon, started to self-destruct again.
Again.
And so then it came right next to each other.
I believed that when he died that I would be free, that my perpetrator would no longer be here, and that all of a sudden I would have this, like, you know, freedom. But I had built this beautiful gilded bird cage, and I can tell you that the caged bird does sing. It sings a song of loss and a song of mourning. And I couldn't really figure out how could I be sad at the death of this man who had violated me so deeply. And all of those feelings were so confusing to me, because I really thought, wow, this is going to be, you know, this is my time. I'm 40, I'm free, you know, and I still hadn't allowed myself to actually speak my trauma. And it became, for me, the only way to soothe that anxiety and that pain and that trauma was to go. I went to what I knew. I went to what I knew, which was, you know,
numbing yourself.
Drugs and alcohol, absence of feeling, absence of pain. No, I'm fine. Hey, everything's cool, man. How are you? You know, it was complete facade. I had built up a character over the years that presented as someone who was well. I had presented so many sanitized versions of my healthy psyche that I had never actually taken that journey to actually believing it myself. But boy, was I a good actor, and I could make you believe it.
Yeah.
And
once you started to connect those dots, then you were able to start healing yourself, right?
I was able to be here now in my body, present in the moment I've been so freely given.
Ah, isn't that marvelous?
Wonderful.
Powerful stuff.
Good for you.
Wow, I'm having a feeling. I'm having a feeling.
Good.
You're getting verklempt.
Wow.
I'm getting verklempt. That's
Very good.
And tell me, you know, there's people that are unwell, and they often have caregivers. I know that I write extensively in my book, Cancer Schmancer, about my boyfriend at the time, who was my caregiver. But can you speak to the emotional stresses on the caregiver with someone that has a serious disease or, you know, problem with substance abuse? We saw Dan Clark talking about him having to do an intervention with his family over a brother that was an alcoholic. And, you know, this puts a lot of stress on the caregiver.
It's a huge amount of stress, and I always tell caregivers, just as important as the pain medication that we write or the antidepressant that we give them for the disease, the caregiver is part of this prescription and treatment plan. And if they're not going to keep themselves solid, then they're not really going to be helping us get to the end goal. And keeping themselves solid is really looking at how they think and how they feel about being a caregiver, about that loved one or whoever it is that they're taking care of, because they have feelings. And if you don't address them, they will build up. And before you know it, a caregiver could get sick.
Caregivers often get sicker than the patient.
Right.
That's what happened to my mom.
Right.
My stepfather had Alzheimer's, and she cared for him in the home because she didn't feel like she could handle the guilt of putting him in a facility. And, you know, and she had an out-of-control alcohol use disorder at the time. By the way, my mom died this year, 18 years sober. Hallelujah. I love you, Mama.
Sorry.
But she, no, it's okay. It was a way different reaction to losing a parent than when my father passed away. I can tell you that right now. But my mom had diverticulitis. She had to have a bowel resection. I mean, the stress because there's no self-care.
Right.
When you're so focused on the addict or the alcoholic or the identified patient. Nobody wants to be the identified patient, but some of us become that, right?
Absolutely.
And it's all about practicing radical self-care so that you can go in and be of service to the person.
Radical self-care. It's really important that you recognize that. My mom broke a femur bone in my house here. They came on vacation. She had to go in for knee surgery and then went in to a rehab hospital. My dad, you know, was so crazed with visiting her at the hospital every day and worrying about her that he came down with influenza and he went into the hospital. And then I, who was working on Happily Divorced and visiting both of them and trying to start a series, new season, my cortisol levels went so high and my whole body had massive inflammation. So it was really the blind leading the blind. And, you know, that was the beginning of me really kind of being very on top of managing my stress.
Right. Think and feel.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you know, these guys are so interesting and articulate. I was wondering if we had any people that would like, we can open this up to some Q&A if anybody would like to speak to them on this subject. Yes, come over here to this microphone. What's it called?
It's table 16 again. Hi, I'm a breast cancer survivor.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my question in a whole, as that we're getting the end of this, is I've radically changed my life. My diet, I'm working so hard to, I'm a mom and that's what I'm living for, my 3 kids and my husband. And my question is, I sometimes will do bad things, you know, I'll go drink and party or oh man, the French fries on their plate look good, I'm gonna eat them. And then I beat myself up. So what would you, I mean, I see a therapist. I love it. It's my hour for me. But that's the one thing I keep going, you know? I'll beat myself up after and think,
I just want to say something to you that helps me a lot. Don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. You know, really. And that goes for everything. If you're going to detox your home, if you're going to try and stay on a program that's a healthy one, don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. You know, everything in moderation, including moderation.
Right.
yeah,
So cut yourself some slack.
I'm trying.
And, you know, don't break up your mind into the good you and the bad you, and the disapproving parent you, and the kind of adolescent you who's acting out but then has to be reprimanded. It's all you.
Yeah.
It's an illusion to think that there's a good you and a bad you. You're an adult woman. Take responsibility. You want to do it? Have an awareness. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to enjoy myself. If you're going to beat yourself up after, don't do it. So when you go for the French fry, say, I want it. I'm going to savor it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to make it a habit, and I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
But if you're going to beat yourself up after, then don't bother, because you're just creating a cycle of negativity, and it's not worth eating it in the first place. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then finish your French fry and get on with your life.
Right.
My cocktail.
I also think that it's important for you to figure out what it is that's driving you to be so tough with yourself.
Yes.
There's a fear that's driving this for you. And if you look at that fear, you'll see that it's really not really based in any reality maybe. And if you can let up a little bit on yourself, and that fear won't be there so much, because you got the fear with a negative brain chemistry, and then you have the negative brain chemistry of not giving yourself something. So you're really just all negative. So free it up and figure out the fear.
And also, I mean, this doesn't really work for alcoholics and addicts, but give yourself a cheat day.
Right.
You know, and schedule it. It's like, okay, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to have some fries and I'm going to have a few beers with my friends. Now, that's not something that I have the luxury of doing, but that's a choice for me.
Right.
You know, that's a choice that I've made for myself in my life. But if you can say, hey, October 27th is the day that I get to go out and have a few glasses of wine and some French fries. And if it's something that you've actually built into your life and built into your schedule, there's less of an opportunity to beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, and you're punishing yourself for some unknown reason. You don't need to punish yourself.
Yeah. No, it's fine. You're excited. You were just on the stage. But I think that what he's saying is absolutely right. You got to look at why are you so hard on yourself? And get in touch with that. And then when you have that impulse to be negative and beat yourself up, say, you know what? This connects back to some archaic experience, or this is the parent voice inside of me. And, you know, it has no relevance to my current state of mind because you're a survivor. So, you know, you can't be being all negative. That's not going to be good for your survival.
Right.
Yeah, we believe you.
Yeah. Right, it's fear. Right.
Well, part of that, honestly, is living joyfully.
Right.
Yeah.
You've just described part of your fear.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
Yeah.
and, you know, just commit to being joyful. If you really enjoy that French fry and you enjoy the eating of it and, you know, and afterwards, and you don't mix it up with negative energy, it's probably good for you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're gonna
Right.
make like, ooh, I'm cheating, I'm being bad, and then you're gonna beat yourself up after, as the doctor said, the whole cycle is negative, and that occurrence is more unhealthy for you
Than the
if you
actual
just
thing.
conquer your negativity, eat
Yeah.
the bloody French fry, and enjoy your life. Say, thank God I'm alive and well, and I'm gonna eat this French fry.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Bringing
letting me
it.
have a therapy session here.
You're free.
No, but it's important because
Yes.
everybody beats themselves up over different things throughout the course of their life, and we have to stop doing that. It's, you know, it's counterproductive, and it's not serving anyone well. So we got to start being one, our own person, and then, you know, being kinder to ourselves, being
other
more
day,
loving to ourselves.
I was driving. These things seem to come to me when I'm driving. And I was driving, and I'm on my way to work, you know, 8 miles, 45 minutes. It's my life every day. And I started realizing, like, these are my hands. This is my body. I can use these hands to tear down. I can use them to build up. And then I realized I needed to make friends with my body. I thanked my body because I haven't been very kind to my body, right? But it has served me well for so many years. And so I just took a moment to say, thank you, body, for helping me survive all of the things that you know, have come from the outside and things that I've done to myself. And it was really a kind of a powerful moment where I felt this communion with self, this sort of deep communion with self. And
I thank my body all the time. I thank my organs for doing a good job. I'm grateful. It all has consciousness.
It all is part of
Sometimes I say the
mindfulness.
brain is the worst roommate in the house because it thinks that it's a real know-it-all, and it doesn't know anything. It's not any more important than any other organ, and sometimes it should just shut its big trap and let everybody live in harmony in the body.
Right.
So anyway, on that note, I think that we're going to have to move on, but talking to you guys has been an absolute delight, and thank you, because I think that it gives people license to start connecting the dots, looking at their past or whatever, you know, trauma they may have or have had, and how that factors into how they live their life, and connecting those dots so that it doesn't turn into disease. Right. Thank you so much,
guys.
Today. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You're wonderful. Congratulations.